right. So one of the things that I see online is a lot of Christians who speak out against psychedelic therapy and and the help that it gives people. And this is what I see from my perspective. That that critique comes from one of two camps. One camp is the Christian who has never dabbled into that world, has stayed away from that their whole life, and has found a way to, get through whatever traumas they're experiencing, whatever vices they're in the grip of on their own, and have come out the other side, and like I said, have not used anything to do that other than a relationship with Christ. And that's awesome. Now, within that, there are obviously people who have never had to overcome any, mental illness or vice that's taken over their life, and they still think that, the usage of psychedelic therapy is not a good thing. Now, the other perspective is the person who, when they were younger, was super rebellious and dabbled in psychedelics, and when they did it, they were young and immature and rebellious, and when they did it in a spirit of rebellion. They didn't do it with the intentions of, working on themselves in some way and dealing with some type of issue that they had. And so maybe they enjoyed the experiences because it was this arrogant spirit behind it, like, I'm going to do whatever I want. And they do mushrooms, and they get in this, this state where, like, it's very abstract, and like things change, like the appearance of things kind of warp or something like that, and that's what they get out of it, and they like that state of like ha ha ha, like goofy shit, because they're immature and they're arrogant. And I heard a guy talk about that. He's now an Orthodox Christian, and he has a great channel. And I don't think I'm putting any words in his mouth, but he has said that he really did like that inebriated state that he was in with psychedelics, and I don't. So it's a very shocking thing, and it's I can sense that it's not good for me to be in that all the time. Like that's just not a good state. But anyways, there's other people. Well, actually, back to the Christian who's rebellious and everything. So they do it when they're younger, and now that they're older, they don't have as much of a rebellious spirit as they did when they were a kid. It's, toned down a little bit. And so their only understanding of it is from that rebellious state in their life, where they liked it because, it was rebellious, it was against the authority figures in their life, and now that they've kind of reeled themselves in, they see that the way in which they went about it was not healthy. But what they do is they attach the way they experienced it and the reasons for them experiencing it onto everyone else using it for therapy. And that's the problem. And so that's just that particular person not being able to put themselves in the shoes of someone seeking out this therapy with psychedelics from a state of improving their lives and improving their relationship with themselves and their relationship with God. And the majority of these people seeking psychedelic therapy are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, So they're more mature just by the natural progression of people's life experiences. Hopefully you grow in maturity, and so they're old enough to kind of do that. So it's a very hard thing to have a conversation with somebody, and The reason I bring all this up is because I went back and watched a podcast that I did with that guy that I was talking about, is David Patrick Harry, and I really like the guy, and he's very smart. He's very educated, and he's on topic with a lot of things. But him and I just came to psychedelic usage from two distinctly different spirits, and I feel like that's how, we could possibly talk past each other. And you can't change someone's heart. And so, I would wish that I could, convince somebody who went down that road when they were younger of doing psychedelics in a rebellious spirit, and now dismissing it as an older person. I wish I could convince them that they were just completely in the wrong, and that they could actually benefit from it now as an adult. But you can't, and maybe they don't need it. It's like, it's just one of those things. It's like, if you don't need it, then you're not going to seek it out again. But it's funny. I feel like sometimes people who have done psychedelics when they were younger, it's almost like, unbeknownst to them, they have actually helped their mental health in a way. Even though it was they weren't in the best headspace to do it. Having a very scary, experience where you're possibly thinking you're going to die, and then you come through that on the other. I mean, that changes you. That's why the experience of the quote unquote ego death in these high dose therapy sessions is life changing, because you can't really simulate dying unless you're in this this psychedelic altered state, or you have a near death experience. And those always change people. So in a way, they've benefited from it in a therapeutic way, even though they didn't necessarily approach it in a therapeutic way or for therapeutic outcomes. And it reminds me of one of the things that I experienced when I smoked weed for the first time when I was 28. Yeah, 28 or 30. Yeah, 28. And I was struggling with sleep, and I didn't want to get hooked on pharmaceuticals. And I took some sleeping pills, and I just felt groggy the next day. And I'm just like, this is not. I can't be this groggy in the morning, because I need to be productive. I need to do things. I need to work out. Got to go to work. So I tried it, and I didn't. It didn't really help me that much with sleep, and it kind of like gives me anxiety. But I did realize that there are benefits to it, but doing it as a 28-year-old, I was like, oh shit, everybody who was smoking weed in high school acted like an idiot, not because of the weed, but because they were idiots. They were teenagers. So, I mean, of course they're going to, if you're not mature and you get a little bit, quote unquote, inebriated in some way, you're going to make stupid decisions, say stupid things, do stupid things. And I was like, oh, okay, so weed's not necessarily what makes people stupid. They just are that already. Because that was one of the main reasons I stayed away from any type of drug, is I didn't want to affect my brain, my brain's development, or break my brain, or lose my mind. And but yeah, it was a funny realization. But there are so many people out there. Back to the psychedelic therapy, there are so many people out there who are becoming Christian now, and because of the state of the world, and they're finally in their 30s and 40s, and and they're adopting this faith and that they have, rejected from their childhood. And then there's also people in their 20s accepting or converting to Christianity and becoming Christians. And to them, what I would say is some things could happen. This is what I see happening, right? I see a lot of the people in their 30s, like me, and 40s. I've been a Christian my whole life, but I'm saying for them in their 30s and 40s, becoming Christian now, I see them possibly dismissing anything when it comes to do with psychedelic therapy, just because of just the historical stance among Christians with quote unquote mind altering drugs. Obviously, if anybody's done any type of research on psychedelic therapy, you've seen that it's changed people's lives, given them their lives back, given them a relationship with God where they didn't have one, and a better relationship with themselves and everybody in their life, and the potential to improve your life just exponentially grows due to these medicines and the therapy. But I also see the younger people in their 20s possibly rejecting everything associated with anti-Christian behavior, and them being so young to not have the wisdom to look into the history of psychedelics and the propaganda around it, and the misuse of psychedelics in the 60s and 70s with Timothy Leary and other people, and how the government responded to that and outlawed it and changed the classification of it, and then created an alternative lifestyle group of people, like the hippies, who sought this stuff out, and in the seeking of that out, they also rejected religion. They also rejected Christianity, and I think they made a mistake as well. And I would hope that the Christians now becoming the young men and women becoming Christians in their 20s don't dismiss psychedelic therapy because they want to throw out everything that is not culturally Christian or accepted by the church or something. And the only way that that conversation can continue and people not shut it out is for people like me who have been a Christian their whole life and sought out psychedelic therapy, never done any type of drug or drink when they were younger, finally sought it out due to health issues, and have found extreme benefit from it, and has continued and gone deeper into his faith and his relationship with Christ, and has seen other people around him also do that while doing psychedelic therapy. So, I just want to create a conversation around it, and this is a little different than the normal videos that I'm doing, just because I just see this and I don't think anybody's really talking about it. So hopefully, if you see what I'm seeing, this relates to you, and if you don't, obviously you're going to say something in the comments and try to piss me off, but I can't read the comments. It's a waste of my time. And I know that for sure, after going back and watching the podcast that I did with Patrick, and I read some of the comments on that. I'm just like, oh, I can't convince. Like, there's a limit to what I can do, and how I present myself. It's just going to come off a certain way to certain people, and all I can do is just try to be as respectful and purposeful as I can with how I'm trying to present these things. And my intentions are pretty good, although things could go awry with good intentions. But I just see the benefit in people's lives, and that is what I've been privy to. And a lot of people who are against psychedelic therapy just don't see the benefit that it has given to other people close to them, or and even themselves. They haven't done it in a therapeutic way, so they don't really understand. But the arrogance that a lot of these people have when it comes to psychedelic therapy is another thing, right? So they're willing, they were willing when they were younger in their teenage years in college to do random mushrooms that they got from somebody at a party or out in the woods somewhere instead of, or they're willing to do that, but they're not even willing to give any credibility to a therapeutic approach, which is with a blindfold on in a bed, listening to some, slow music that kind of puts you in a state of receptivity and surrender to God and to healing and grace. They won't even give it any credibility. So it is interesting, but all it is, like I say all the time, it's our pride, and we're all in relationship with it, and we're all wrestling with it every day, all day, but sometimes we don't acknowledge it. I have to acknowledge it because that's the only way forward for me. I have to acknowledge the pride that's there and the pride that I can have. It's like in Lord of the Rings where everybody thinks that they can hold the ring and they won't be defiled by it and they won't be, convinced to misuse it. But everyone uses it because they've got good intentions. They're like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that and I'll stop the bad people from hurting people. But then they just go too far, and so our pride is always present and something that we have to wrestle against. So, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but a few other things. And our heart is, it can be helpful, but it's also deceptive, And so checking your heart all the time, checking your pride is super important. So hopefully this video helps somebody, but there's just some thoughts on what I've been thinking about.